Hi, today we will discuss the history of the ACI and the NSCP. ACI means the American Concrete Institute, especially the ACI 318. We call the building code requirements for structural concrete. As you can see, we have the symbol ACI 318-XX. XX means the year it was updated. And also we have the commentary with the addition of R. So ACI 318R-XX means the ACI with the commentary. So normally the ACI has two columns. The first column as the content of the code, and the second column as the commentary. The commentary is very useful, especially when you are new to the ACI, but of course, even if you are practicing, it would be very useful if you will still see the commentary. In the early 1900s, the working stress design, or WSD, was mainly used in building code requirements for structural concrete. But in 1956, the ultimate strength design, or we call it USD, was first introduced. But of course, WSD is still uh, the design method for structural concrete. But in 1963, the two methods, the WSD and USD, are treated with equal basis. And then in 1971, based entirely on strength approach, that is the USD, WSD was small part called the alternate design method, or ATM. So for a very long time, the design of structural concrete, we are using the working stress design. And then in 1977, the alternate design method was moved to Appendix A of the code. And the USD, or the ultimate strength design, was called to strength design method because it's kind of redundant to say ultimate strength. So you can just say strength design method. In 1983, the EDM was moved to Appendix B. And then in 1989, the EDM moved back to Appendix A. And then in 1995, the ACI 318 committee actually looks for the unified design, which was introduced in Appendix B. This unified design is that we want to unify the reinforced concrete and the pre-stressed design. And in 1999, the limit state at failure approach was introduced. And then in 2002, we changed the load factor from 1.4 dead load plus 1.7 live load to 1.2 dead load plus 1.6 live load. And then in 2005, Appendix D, anchoring to concrete, modified in different ways. And in 2008, the significant changes of appendices relative to precast pre-stress concrete. And then in 2011, in Appendix D, anchoring to concrete with changes. Of course, in 2014, this is just the same code in 2011 but reorganized. Uh, what does it mean? Because in the previous codes or previous editions of ACI, it's quite difficult to look for the particular structural member. So they reorganized the ACI in 2014, so you can easily find, like for example, the structural elements for slabs, for beams, columns, and they separated the requirements for reinforcements and other things. So this is more easily, or this we can easily go around ACI after 2014. And in 2019, this is the latest edition, which allows the use of higher grades of steel. Of course, in the Philippines, we are using the National Structural Code of the Philippines, and we have these different editions. As you can see, the first edition of NSCP is 1972. So, dili ra gid nga na siya kadukay. And also we have 1982 as the second edition, 1987 the third edition, 1992 the fourth edition. Then we have the fifth edition in 2001 and another edition in 2007. Of course, that is for the second printing, and then 2010. And lastly, we have the latest edition 2015. If you will be looking at this code, you will see that it does not only contain reinforced concrete, it contains all things about structural engineering. That is, it contains loadings, that is dead load, live load, earthquake, and wind loads. Also, the geotechnical engineering portion of the structural engineering, that is the foundation. Also, in chapter 4, you will see reinforced concrete. Chapter 5, you will see structural steel, masonry, timber, and other things about structural engineering. So in this particular document, we will only be looking at the loads and chapter 4, that is reinforced concrete. Of course, the ASEP, or Association of Structural Engineers of the Philippines, which is actually the one responsible in developing the NSCP. They will be updating the code soon, I believe in 2022 or next year. And one of the major changes that they are talking about is the change of the earthquake provisions. The old one is that we are using the UBC, the Uniform Building Code of 1997 in California. That's quite old already, 1997 pa. So the we are ASEP is contemplating to change it from UBC 97 to ESCE. EC means the American Standard or American Society of Civil Engineers. ECI, Structural Engineers Institute. They will be going that document, but of course the latest edition of ECE ECI is 2016. But they will be going first to 2005. They will be using 2005 first for the earthquake provisions, because one of the things that they are still looking into is some of the documents for 2016. So for us to easily change from 1997, we need to use first 2005, and then later on, if PBOX can provide the said document needed for 2010 or 2016, then we can update again our earthquake provision towards that editions of EI, EEC, ECI. So as you can see here, we have the different code bases for NSCP. As I have said, we are using UBC, and then also ECI for the concrete and EIEC for the structural steel. And also we use some portions of AS2 and the ASCE for the loading. Okay, so that's all for the ECI and NSCP code, and I hope you will have the idea on how it was updated. And normally ACI is updated every 3 years, and NACP depends on the committee how fast they can update the document. Okay, so that's all for this topic. Thank you.